Ladies and gentlemen, ears of corn all over the internet and indeed the world. Welcome to the Corn Chronicles. The search continues. Tonight, my guest is the one and only Stilts, Brett Harkin, joining me from Pennsylvania, where I got to know him as a part of York College's now alumni. Brett, how are we doing tonight, my friend?
I'm great, Polly. How are you, man?
I'm doing good, man. Such a pleasure to see your face. Everybody might notice that tonight we are rocking a very special basketball jersey rendition of the Corn Chronicles, and we are Thunder Buddies for life, you might say.
That's right.
Yeah, man. So one of the things Brett and I obviously have in common is a great affinity for basketball, but also for great music, and that's part of the reason we've connected throughout college and certainly afterwards. We'll certainly get to that. But Brett, personally, where I want to start is with college. Can you tell me a little bit about what kind of brought you to York? And then I know we connected over Rhapsody, but we can kind of talk about that a little separately. Kind of what went into your process that brought you to YCP? Because obviously you couldn't have known that I was already going, so that couldn't have
Oh,
been.
I know. That would have no decision if that was the case. So it was interesting because I applied to a few schools, and I did my formative schooling in South Jersey. So I like the idea of being in the greater Pennsylvania or greater Philadelphia area. That's where I grew up my whole life, and I love that city. So like Drexel was my number one school. But to Drexel, I'm a white male, so it was very expensive, and I didn't want to have to foot that bill. And it really came down to I looked at different programs. It came down to Westchester University or York, and quite honestly, York offered me more money to go to school, a good education, and come out with a little less student debt. So that was where I ultimately landed. I'm sure it helped. My sister's 3 years older, and she also went to the school, so we had actually we ended up having 2 years together, which was a pretty cool experience. We'll get into Rhapsody, but I knew about Rhapsody before going to York College because of her, and actually going to see her concerts while I was in high school and stuff. So it was a good experience. I'll be honest with you and some other people. I wasn't really happy at York College at first, and actually almost thought about transferring after my freshman year.
Really?
And that summer, I had a conversation with my mom and said, "Hey, I'm not happy with this. This isn't what I thought college would be." And she said, "Do you realize how good you have it?" And really made me pause and think. She said, you have a great group of friends. It's not your sister's school. You're making it your school. You have a lot of things going on. I heeded her advice. I went back my next semester, and that's when I found my calling with my first HR class. And I was like, all right, she was right. And it was great from there. So it was a wonderful experience. I just needed some parenting at one point.
Yeah, right on. Well, that's why they're there, dude. That's tremendous.
For sure.
So certainly, we alluded to the fact we first got to know each other. I think, quite frankly, because Steve was involved in Rhapsody, and I was just kind of there and always kind of about. Yeah, man. But by all means, eventually I got wise, and I also joined Rhapsody, and certainly some treasured memories there that I'm sure we'll discuss. I have to ask you though. You mentioned that Caitlin, your sister, was also a student at your college, and I don't want to speak for you, but certainly in getting to know you, and certainly in somewhat of a reflection of you deciding to go to York College, I can relate to my sister and I are very close. In many ways, she's my best friend, and she's my hero in more ways than she probably realized, very earnestly.
Yeah.
I would have I can't say that I would line up to do it, but I would have no qualms with going to the same college as my sister. Here's my question to you, because here's where my hiccup I think would be. My musicianship is modest at best. I can sing a little bit, and I play a really mediocre ukulele that I just like making some sounds with.
Oh,
all right,
please.
that's me. My sister is very musically talented. She's a music teacher. She knows what she's talking about. So it's not a matter of skill level or anything like that. I say again that my sister's my hero. I love her so much. What I couldn't imagine doing, as much as I love her and as talented as she is approaching a musical project with her. And that's where kind of my question is was the Rhapsody experience with Caitlin kind of different? Can you kind of, I'm very curious, like, was there any, I don't want to say trepidation, but did that feel different at any time for you? Did it feel different, the group, after she had left in one way or another? I know that's kind of a weird question, and maybe that's a bigger hill in my mind than yours, but I'm kind of curious about what that would be, not necessarily socially, but in terms of approaching a group like that, and especially the leadership role that I know you took on. If you could speak on that, I'd be very curious.
So the short answer is it wasn't strange at all. I've been singing with my sister since I could remember. She shares this Facebook post she wrote like 10 years ago every so often when it's a memory. And she says, I cry every time I hear my brother sing. And, you know, we really value singing together. We used to do it in our bedrooms a lot. We did it in high school. I was a freshman while she was a senior in the chamber choir with her, and had a chance to be a part of some groups. There's one unfortunate memory where I ruined the time she had the solo, but
oh no!
Otherwise, we don't get into that one right now. But
stop the show.
So yeah, if she sees this, she'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But no, honestly, Caitlin pushed me to do Rhapsody. She said, like, as soon as I decided to go to York College, she's like, "Oh, you'll be a great fit." And it was like a foregone conclusion in my mind. And from watching the group perform for a few years, I was like, all right, this is going to be cool. Now, what was interesting is, and I came into Rhapsody, I knew the previous regime, and when I auditioned, there were 3 people that stayed from the prior group. And part of that turnover in the entire group made my sister the president at the time. And not that I got any favoritism. I think it was quite the opposite, that she probably held me to a higher standard. But I was actually put in a strange position where I just started Rhapsody in my first semester. I became the treasurer of the organization. I'm like, I'm just learning the music. But it was something that, yeah, I might get those sister and brother little things during practice, because as always, singing tenor, you know, we goofed off a little bit more than probably we should have. Yeah. But it was never an issue. I love singing with Caitlin to this day, and it's always been a wonderful experience. I mean, I think she, in her own right, is one of the prettiest soprano voices I've ever heard, and I
remember it well.
It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. It's so cool to hear those reflections. I could say there was a time when we were very little where I don't think Noel and I shared the same joy in hearing each other sing. But
Fair enough.
But we learned the group from it, man. And man, I certainly love that perspective. Caitlin did indeed, or does indeed, you know, good Lord, have a lovely voice, and that's cool, man, that you all kind of kept that bond, and it was sure fun singing with you both.
Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, something we've always done in different genres. You know, when we were younger, it started singing like Broadway duets together, and then it was more serious music and getting involved. She also made me always very welcome in these circumstances, because maybe it was because of our relationship, or I like to also think she was proud of some of the God-given talent I've had to have the voice I have, and it's just, hey, I'm proud of my brother, and I like that he can sing at this level with me, and she made it very welcoming to me. So it's really a tribute to her when I think back on this. It never would have been difficult in my mind just because of how easy Caitlin made it.
Well, cool, man. Right on. I can say that, certainly speaking for myself, I know that some of your God-given talent also kind of paved the way. I remember going to my first, I think there was only one semester that Rhapsody performed while I was there that I wasn't in the group. And it was, I think, kind of a disco theme. And so I see Steve walk out with his big mustache, and I'm like, all right, yeah, you do you. I saw that coming. I saw, this is relative to nothing, but I remember Melissa Corn's hair was a wig, and I spent the whole. I didn't know her one way I didn't know her at all, but I spent the whole time looking at the stage, and I'm just like, is that real? Like, did she do her hair like that? I'm like leaning forward, squinting, just like, is this stranger really having like? That must have taken a lot of work, you know.
Yeah, because it's a big puffy afro thing, right?
That's right. Yeah, but I was
yeah.
you know, you never know people's. I mean, and now looking back, it's comical. But I was like, I wonder if she did that on purpose. You know. And then I remember you stepping up to the mic for Africa, and as soon as you remember the lyrics, which took a little while, you.
You know what? I was listening. I know they're not your favorite, but when I was cooking dinner, I was like, oh, I'll hear some Weezer, and it so did the Spotify playlist. And when Africa came on, I was thinking to myself, like, oh man, this is the only time I ever had a solo and I forgot the words in the crowd. Oh, it was awful, but yeah.
Oh man, I shouldn't laugh. I feel like a fool, but
That's all right. I think I had a beer or two that night to get over everything, so I was fine.
Yeah, man. I'm not sure I knew what a baster was until I went to a Rhapsody party. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, right? Like I thought this is something only mom brings out on Thanksgiving Day, and that was it.
What are we cooking a turkey at this party? Maybe what?
When you were saying so, Melissa with the wig, if you look back, and this isn't worth your time, quite honestly, but during this disco theme, I went to Salvation Army. I bought a women's blazer, a much smaller size than the one I'm wearing now, and it was like hot pink. And I wasn't bashful. I'm still not. And I didn't wear a shirt underneath. But since I didn't have any chest hair, I actually bought a wig and cut it up and glued it to my chest for the concert so I could be like Mr. Chest Hair. And it wasn't too bad to get off. But yeah, that was how ridiculous and attention-seeking apparently I was.
Get you using the turkey baster to get glued on. You know?
That's right.
Like a glove? Yes, indeed. Oh, man. No, but very good memories. Once you got the lyrics straight, lovely voice. Certainly a revelation. And once I heard that, I remember I kind of asked Steve, I was just like, hey, man, that looked pretty fun. Like, is it fun? You know, because there are things you tell your friends. It's a fair question. It seems like, yeah, it's fun. Yeah. And he pretty much just said it just like that. I'm just like, you cool if I try to join? He's just like, yeah, man, cool. And there it is, man.
It worked out.
Yeah. I remember being inordinately nervous for the kind of audition, which in hindsight is pretty laughable. Are there, not for nothing, man, like only because I've never asked anybody's perspectives on this. Are there any memories of my particular audition only because I felt a little nervous at the time?
No, and that's funny because, and I know from getting to know you that you can feel that way. You're not always or you're definitely not as loud as I am as an individual and a little more reserved. But I never would have guessed you were nervous. And I mean, you knocked it out of the park. The trick with the audition for anybody you tried, it's like you got to pick a song that's right for you. Yeah. And yeah, you want to showcase some of your talent, but if you pick something that's wrong, and I'm gonna go up there and sing some classical piece, well, not only is it wrong for the genre, but it may not showcase my voice as much as like a pop rock kind of song. And you did a nice job. It wasn't like we said, hey, we have second thoughts by any means. I mean, we knew you would strengthen the group, and you did, and strengthened it for a while, I would say.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, cool. Yeah, I remember it well. Sang a Sublime song that I probably haven't sung since. I do remember that.
There's your next uke video, man.
What's that?
Bring it back right? For your next uke.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's true, man. Good luck with that. One of the things Brett and I also kind of have in common is a love of the game of basketball, both watching and certainly I know I try to still play when I can, when present circumstances aside, kind of allow that. Can you kind of talk me through? I'll put it to you like this. I remember playing basketball obviously my whole life, but then I remember starting to play at college, and I would play with Jake, and Denny would play with us.
Yeah.
And Denny, for like his first semester, was, not the player that he wound up being. That's the truth. And I've said that a million times. And we would play all the time. And then I remember very distinctly something happened and the planets finally aligned and we were going to play together. And I remember, I don't know who said it. It might have been Steve himself or Jake. And he's just like, Brett plays. And I'm just like, oh, cool. And I'm just like, no, like Brett like played in high school. And like somebody's like hyping it up. And I'm literally, in my head, I'm just like, I got to be honest with you, man. Like I'm as competitive as anybody, but like I'm also like pretty chill about the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to try that hard. Like, does Brett think about it like this? You know what I'm saying? Like, I was just like, I don't know if I want to play.
Oh, that's such a silly thing to think in hindsight, right?
Yeah, dude. It turns out playing with you was fun because we were definitely trying to win. And rest assured, man, I got a lot of that in me. But we're also definitely trying to have some fun too. I remember very literally the very first play of at least you and I being on the same team. Maybe not you and I seeing each other play. You hit me with a pass and I scored. And I meant to say like good looks or nice pass or something like that. And I swear to God, I said, and I quote, I'm like, nice eyes.
Because I'm that intimidating that you couldn't even gather your words together. My goodness.
I don't know about that. Maybe I was just running, I mean, it's a game after all. We were running, but I just remember thinking like, nice eyes. Like, what the hell?
I mean, they are nice and blue, so, I'll take that.
And then I went up and I stroked your face.
That sounds par for the course.
No, and then I remember maybe not the next time down the court, but in the same game, I had the ball and I kicked it out to you, and you hit like a little free throw like jumper, and you said back, you were like, nice eyes, and I'm like, wait, is this a thing now?
Oh man, I do not remember that one. I like it.
I don't think either one of us said it since, but I just remember thinking.
Well, now we're going to. Every time I see you, I'm gonna like remember this.
I just remember being like maybe 60% mortified and 40% impressed that like now nice eyes was equivalent to like nice pass,
That's good. That's good. Well, yeah, unfortunately, when you have this friendship, you get those inside jokes and you can roll with them. Unfortunately, that one kind of fell by the wayside, but I think it needs to make a resurgence.
It was probably all sympathy of just like, I guess that's what they say in New York. I'll join them. Yeah.
Well, you guys play rock, paper, scissors wrong, so it could be anything else there.
Man, you got to say the says, man.
No. All right, so Amber and I've been watching Brain Games. It's a National Geographic show, but we watch it on Disney Plus, and it went from being this really cool show where you do these experiments and you find out how the male or female or adult or child brain works to let's make it entertaining. So Keegan-Michael Key's the host, and they have this mentalist on, and he's incredible. But part of what he does every show is he plays rock, paper, scissors with the celebrities that come on, and they never say says. I mean, so I'm just saying, this is another platform where your little says with the Long Island thing, I don't know where that came from, but it is something you all do, regardless of where you came from, because there were a surprising number of Long Islanders that went to your college. And as I found this out to be a little colloquialism, I started asking people, and every single person says, oh, it says shoot. And I'm like, what is this world? I don't understand. Are the rest of us doing it wrong? Do we not have nice eyes? I don't know.
Do we not have you throw in that extra syllable. It's a good way to know what your opponent's throwing out, yeah?
That's fair. Fair.
Maybe that's what it all boils down to, man. Can you tell me a little bit about coming up in the game? Maybe not what got you into basketball, because that sounds a little too much like a Hallmark card. But tell me a little bit about kind of your playing career a little bit.
Well, I can answer this Hallmark thing easily. Like every kid that grew up in the '90s, it was Michael Jordan. And a lot of that was because we have, quote unquote family that live in Chicago. So they're there and got us into watching a lot of Michael Jordan. And, I got my first basketball jersey when I was probably like 7 years old. And we lived in a private lane. We had like 3 acres of land, so I didn't have anybody by me. The few houses that were around, they were all like girls that were my sister's age. And, when I'm younger, it's like, I don't want to play with girls. So I spent a lot of time outside when we got a basketball hoop just putting up shots. And then we moved to South Jersey. I did it more, and then I started hanging out with more friends as we were playing. But I started playing basketball, organized basketball, in 4th grade. Played all the way through high school. I went to a small high school, so it was nice. I had the opportunity to be on the varsity team and practice with the varsity as a freshman, but actually have substantial playing time from sophomore on. Honestly, got a little bit of recruiting from colleges, mostly D3 or D2, not to toot my own horn here, but I did train with some guys who played in the NBA every offseason. And most notable, their claim to fame, it's the Crispin brothers. So if anybody follows Penn State basketball, the one time they got to the Sweet 16, these 2 brothers took them there. And they're from South Jersey, so we got connected. Joe Crispin played 6 years in the league. I think he was on the Lakers bench one year they won a championship. John Crispin right now, you see him on ESPN doing college basketball color commentary, and he's married into the Matthews football family. So anyway, that's a weird connection that I have with those guys.
Oh my God. That's why to cut you right off, man. That's why people were telling me, like, Brett plays. And I'm just like, all right.
Well,
no.
So they always got on me and would say, hey, why aren't you playing in college? I'm like, because basketball is not going to be a career. Whatever I'm studying is going to be my career. So I kind of took that approach, which is similar to, when you and I would play. It started as doing pickup almost every night, I think. And then we would sign up for the intramural league. And if I wanted to try out for the team, I could have, but it wasn't something that I wanted to do. I just wanted to enjoy it and do it at my pace and my pleasure. And maybe because of that, it was smart because I still love it and I'm not burnt out or anything. Yeah. But yeah, it's a great game. Played that whole time, and I miss it. It's something that I've looked around here for adult leagues in York, that is. Yeah. And unfortunately, I just don't have enough friends that I could round up and make a team ourselves. And I'm not associated with the league that goes on to see if, hey, can I be a sub on somebody else's team and get in with them? So I don't play as much as I used to, but I certainly look forward to when I do get out there, and normally when the weather's nice. And now I'm trying to trick my son into loving basketball as a 2-year-old. So hopefully as we go forward, we'll have the second coming, the better coming, even at that.
I can't wait, man. I'll tell you, man, if New York to Pennsylvania were a reasonable commute, I would team up with you any day, man.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. In fact, next time, well, I know I saw you, what was it, like 3 or 4 months ago at this point.
Yeah.
A little too cold then, but if it's next time we are our paths cross. Let's try that again. If it's a little warmer, we should schedule in some hoop time.
I would love that, man. Yeah, you bet. I'll show you son how to shoot free throws. You can show him everything else. Yeah.
So that's my game. When you said earlier, and you were like, "Oh, I gave you the pass, and you shot a little mid-range jumper," I'm like, "That's really my game." Yeah. Once I step out to that 3-point line, it is not my shot. I do everything. And keep in mind, when we're playing pickup balls, like, I'm going to shoot more than I ever got to in high school and growing up because I was always the tallest kid on the court.
Right.
For those of you who don't know, I'm 6'5". Right. So it's like, this huge person, stick him down by the hoop. And I had a very good low post game, but what I learned actually from the Crispin brothers was you got to develop your guard skills, and then you can be lethal.
Mhm.
And that really took things to the next level. Then I was like, well, this is more fun than being down in the post. So when I'm in pickup ball in a Grumbacher gym, the last thing I want to do is go in the post.
You bet, man. Preview up to share a little bit. Boy, oh boy. I was talking the other day. I hate the fact, and I love basketball, but the fact on those intramural teams that I was the backup point guard is indicative of that. That's not good, man. I am the three man who knows how to make a great pass, man. That is my game. And I just remember when we were playing. Here's the thing: we had that one year where we were called no game scheduled, and we
Oh
came
my goodness! I was hoping you'd bring this up.
Navy boy, and I do not have many claims to fame, nor do I have many claims to the old potato working pretty well. But I had the brilliant idea of naming our intramural basketball team No Game Scheduled, mostly as a lark, because I know that that's what they used to say that, a team had no game, certainly last season. Lo and behold, we get to the first game of the year, and the other team neglects to show. And one, it was hilarious. Two, it was the only win we had all season because it was the competitive league, and we were a talented bunch, but we were more definitely recreational from stem to stern. You know what I'm saying?
And we played at a little slower pace than some of those guys.
Yes, yeah, that's one way to put it, man. And so we did get that one win, but I also remember being very frustrated because that was the one semester, and I think I only had two in college, and I worked hard in college, this, that, and the other thing. But I genuinely only had two semesters where like I didn't have time to do much outside of like Rhapsody and my school, you know?
Mm.
And I hated the fact that that was one of those semesters because genuinely all I was doing was showing up to games and I wasn't practicing at all in between. Like I was like the Tin Man. And plus we're playing with competitive people. You know what I'm saying? And I just remember there was one particular time where I'm like the backup point guard. So Dennis is on the bench and like I get the ball like swiped from me twice in a row because I'm not a point guard. And not only am I not a point guard, but I'm not playing often. And I just remember you were like, you got to watch out for that. I'm just like, I'm not a point guard.
I'm always here to be that good cheerleader for you, Polly. I think there was a time or two where I definitely brought the ball up the court, so I must have been third string point guard or something.
Tell me about it, man. For that one game, not the season, but for that one game, man, they were plucking anybody they could. We had Big Phil bring it up a couple times, man.
Oh my gosh, I forgot he played with us. All right, so I retract my previous statement, and that time I was not the tallest player on the court.
Man, Big Phil scoring his first points is one of the highlights of my college career. It really
it was awesome.
It was great. It was great.
I had a lot of fun. So we need to go back for a second to clarify. So with no games scheduled, not only did the team not show up, so they forfeited, but after that, the guy who ran the league had to send an email out to all the teams saying, please know that no game scheduled is a team, so you will play that night. Which, I mean, they should have known because it said, like, hey, I'm Team X versus no game scheduled. So partially bonehead on them, but the fact that you had to have that administrator follow-up is brilliant. So that was fun.
And I still have it hanging on my wall. I promise, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you bet. Shout out to Matt Day, friend of the program,
Oh, that was fantastic. I remember there was a time, my highlight of intramural basketball was, there was this time we had a close game. I'll tell you, the spoiler alert, we ended up losing. But it was the end of regulation. We were down by 3. We took a timeout. We're like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, give me the ball. And I was like, this is my NBA star moment. Give me the ball. And I hit this off balance, in motion 3-pointer where everybody in the gym seemed to be watching because the two teams that were waiting to get on our court afterward because it was the end of the regulation and some other people. And I was so hyped.
Yeah.
And then we went to overtime and lost. And I was like, oh, man. but that was definitely a cool feeling, especially like I said before, I'm not the guy who hits threes. That's not my game. So that was fun.
Nah, man, great times on the court. I say again, man, the stories we told made it sound like we weren't competitive, but we were a good bunch, man. You, me,
Oh,
Dennis, Jake,
absolutely.
oh man, and Greg too. Greg was the one getting in fights.
He did. Greg got us uninvited to a frat forever because he was so scrappy. He was that guy. So when I met Greg, I was like, oh, he's athletic and he could pick up any kind of ball and do well enough with it. But he never played basketball other than probably gym class. And so I started playing with him a little bit for a semester. And then he's like, all right, let's get into it. And he was more than willing to be the 4 on our team. That's for certain.
Yeah, man, always scrapping. He was hopping around, that's for sure, man.
Yeah, he was that area. He moved around the court quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. So you're talking about basketball. I got to bring this up because it was one thing I thought of that we needed to discuss. But the memory of Scott Pollard.
What a name! What a name! Man, oh man, that was on my mind too. You know what I vaguely remember? I remember playing with him, and the guy looks like Scott Pollard, and
Oh my gosh.
I remember playing on his team and thinking like, oh, this guy's not bad, you know, like just as a person, I'm just like whatever, because I guess because we were winning, you know what I'm saying? But then I remember as soon as like the teams were shuffled up and he was starting to lose, he just turned into like a big jerk, and I just remember thinking like, you know, like Scott Pollard, and his name is not Scott Pollard, but it's one of those things where it's just like, what are you doing, Scott Pollard? You know?
Well, and it became that joke for us where we're, antagonizing the guy behind his back, but in front of his face. Like, hey, it's Scott Pollard over here needs to chill out. He probably has no idea who Scott Pollard was or why he looks like him, and that we're actually poking fun at him. But like this guy. He became a total head case, and yeah, he was angry Scott Pollard.
Dude, I mean, it would have been slightly comical no matter what because he looked like him, but it really was like a Jekyll and Hyde, like just like, wait a minute, man, like I don't know if we want to play with you again. Like these are the few people. You saw me in the gym a couple other times. It was just like, dude, you want to play? I'm just like, nah, man, no, I don't. I'm good on that. Yeah. Pollard, what a man. Brett, I was a little embarrassed before. There might not be that much of a story here, but I hate to leave something unturned. I had Greg Poppy Seed Sullivan on the broadcast, some weeks ago, and I'm stagnating the release of these. Who knows when it'll actually be released? But I was asking Greg, one of the coolest bachelor parties I've been to was Greg's, because it was a nice little blend of some nice outdoorsy activities. Got to see a brewery. Certainly got to examine the nightlife of New York, which was probably more unique to me than in fairness to everybody else. There might not be much of a story here, but can you kind of talk me through real quick, kind of planning that for Greg and kind of what went into that for you?
There's not much of a story. It just was, oh, this sounds fun. I think so. What we ended up doing is there's a local mountain by York where we all met and where Greg and I live, and they do a ropes course and zip lining. So like, oh, this sounds fun. Greg likes the outdoors. That this would be up his alley. I ran it by the group. Everybody's like, yeah, let's do it. It was a reasonable price, so we did that. And then I'm like, well, Greg's favorite beer is Perpetual IPA by Trogs.
Right.
So I was like, well, if we're going north to the mountain, Hershey's another half hour farther. So booked a tour for us to do that.
Right.
And then, the idea was like, hey, we'll go out on the night or out in the town that night, keep the libations flowing. And luckily we had Greg's wife to be at the point, and now wife of, 3 or 4 years, Emmy, she picked us up. But what really is important, so the planning wasn't a big deal. That you came down from New York to be with us. Wyatt was in the area, and then Greg's brother Adam at the time was in Mississippi. in grad school. He came up from Ole Miss, and Adam hung out with us, which was cool because I met Adam a few times when he was this nervous, quiet high schooler, and then as he has a few more beers, he opens up quite a bit. And it's like, hey, we have a little bit of a friendship there, which is cool.
Right.
But everybody was having fun. After, I do want to point out, in the day of the zip lining, we went in the morning. We were there for a few hours. It was a great time. At one point with the ropes, we're swinging across. Everybody did their Tarzan call.
Yeah.
Yours in particular was something else. But after this, we're like, all right, middle of the day, let's go get lunch. So we went to this bar, a hole in the wall. You did not eat. And then we waited a little bit, and then we went to the brewery, and you did not eat at the brewery either.
Oh no!
Then we went out in the town.
Second time that people have talked about that I don't eat. Oh Lord!
Well, no, it wasn't. You just weren't hungry, but because of not planning the food to alcohol intake, later that night you were tired. It was like we're at a loud place in York, and you're like zonked.
Oh no!
Wake up! Come on. It's 11.
Oh Lord, no! I don't like to hear that.
No, but it's fine. Then we ended up eating eventually, guys. Don't worry. We went to a diner, and Polly had a Greek salad and French fries at like 2 a.m. That was his go-to, so it worked.
You bet. No, I caught a second win. I remember the night well. I do.
It was fun. Well, and talking with Adam, because you were fascinated and kind of poking fun. He's like, he's wearing all denim.
His denim, his outfit was all denim. Yo, to date this a little bit, like even I had a Snapchat, and I Snapchatted it, and I was just like, this guy is the man, but he's like, but this amount of denim can't be ignored. Like.
Oh, it was so good. But yeah, it was definitely a fun bachelor party. We made a good day of it, and it helps when you have the right company for sure.
Indeed. Yeah, no, and that was a cool group. Certainly seeing the Trogs Brewery was great. You threw me under the bus immediately when the tour guide said, believe it or not, there are people who don't like Mad Elf, and you're just like, he's one of those. And I'm just like, okay, great.
Well, I wasn't going to raise my hand and say I'm one of those, because I also don't like it.
I'm like, we're literally in the temple of Trogs beer, and you're just like.
Their most anticipated seasonal release, like, oh yeah, this guy thinks it's garbage.
Don't put words in my mouth, Brett.
That was fun. I'm always here to help.
Yeah. No, I remember that because I do remember I like went when it was loud. I like went to sit by myself for a little while to like recompose. I don't think I was falling asleep, but I do remember just like I need some space. And yeah, man, it was all good stuff. I do remember also. Actually, there was like a bachelor. I don't know if it was a bachelorette, but there was like a group of girls. There was a group of girls there as well, and I do remember talking to them.
And I think it was one of those things where if it was like a bachelor party, which it probably was, they're wearing a sash and making a big deal, and like waiting for people to approach them, and we would talk about it, not do anything, and then we turn around, like, where's Polly?
Yeah.
Oh, he's talking to the girls. Oh, it was good.
Yeah, no doubt. That did happen. But no, very, very cool times. Very cool party. And shoot, man, there's so many of those. I mean, how do you really talk through, nights out, even just nights in the dorms, and gosh darn, times on the basketball court, times in Rhapsody. What I used to love about Rhapsody, I always got a kick out of the guy songs, how kind of freewheeling they would be.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah. About, the girls would always like take their time, and you could tell that they were really like punching out parts of this, that, and the other thing. And then the guys would just go in a room and just be like, what do you guys feel like doing?
Yeah. And inevitably we're like, what can we do a mashup with this song just to make it more fun? It's kind of like, so like I said, I did some research. I listened to what you posted for Steve and Charnel, just purely because of who you've posted. They're the ones I'm closest to.
Right.
So hello to both of them. comment on Steve. It was called Parma Pizza, which was next to Big Apple Bagels. So that you screwed that, but I got you.
You called it out.
And with Charnel, you guys talked about doing music and not being the music majors and not maybe as astute with certain things. But that was exactly the approach that you were just describing that the guys' songs would take on, because we were just like, all right, we need a pitch pipe, maybe a piano, and we'll get together. We'll figure something out. We don't need a sheet of music. We got this.
Right. Exactly, man. All feel. And then you got Greg there, like, watch me.
Oh, it was good. So Greg, to this day, might be the only person who never tried out for Rhapsody that was in the group.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is pretty wild. But yeah, we needed a bass, and Addy was just like, I know a guy. He came to practice. He sang along with us. We're like, all right, come again. And he sang along. We're like, all right, you're in. So maybe there's a new audition process that we could have implemented, but we never did.
No doubt. Well, I mean, if there's one person I would trust to give autonomy over the group in terms of talent level, I think Addie was up to par, man. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
She could assess. I joke all the time. Well, I don't joke all the time, not anymore. But believe it or not, my introduction to the group, and the reason I didn't go out for it first semester, was I'll say her name because it's not really an indictment of her, and plus I don't really know her. But Jessica Carr was in my opera theater workshop class, and she's talking about how Rhapsody needs guys, and she's talking about it to, I guess, Charnel and Addie, whoever's around, and she's just talking about it. And she says something equivalent to, and excuse my language a little bit, but like, she says something equivalent to, at this point, we just need anybody with a penis or something like that. And then like she goes from saying that like really kind of publicly, like she's talking to them, but like she's talking to the room.
Yeah.
She goes from that and she's like, you. And she points to me. She's just like, do you want to be in Rhapsody? And I'm just like, and I'm lying to her. I'm not lying that I don't want to be in. I'm saying, no, I can't read music. And I'm doing this more for acting. Which, one, is so stupid to say, because the whole point of the opera theater course is to like be in front of people. And it's not like, not that I'm the most talented guy in the world, but it's not like my ability to sing is going to stay a secret. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
And here's what I remember happening. All right. The class starts, and or at least we find our seats. The class hasn't started yet. Class is being run by Randy, Dr. Woodfield. God rest him. Awesome.
Great guy.
And I say to Addie, and of course, like this is my way to like make conversation. And I'm just like, yeah, believe it or not, it's not this awkward. It's not like this. It's not this clunky of a transition, but like it comes up where I'm just like, actually, I can read music, but the way she kind of presented that kind of turned me off. I said to her, I'm like, Rhapsody sounds like a shit time. And like, you can count, especially at that time in my life, but even now, but especially at that time in my life, you can count on your one hand, like how many times I've like swore like that,
Yeah.
And I just remember kind of saying that to her and having that be the end of it. And then she literally goes like, after 5 seconds, she goes like, well, I'm in it. So.
Yeah, that
and I'm literally just like, like, and there's in my head I'm just like, well, there's one friend I won't have.
Well, surprise. But you know what? To be fair, obviously that was the wrong approach to recruit somebody. But on top of that, when you, whether she mentioned it or not, I mean, she was the musical director at the time. So if you knew that, you're like, why would I want to sing for you if you're gonna talk to me like this and I'm a stranger?
Yeah. Exactly.
But I mean, just as she was fine. I knew her obviously before I joined the group, and she was great once you were in it. But yeah, that would be intimidating. That would turn me off. That's for certain.
Yeah. No doubt. And honestly, I met her at a couple of Rhapsody parties afterwards, and I'm not gonna blow smoke and suddenly say like we wound up being friends, but it was definitely like cool little quick
Yeah.
thoughts with her, like I don't have a negative thing to say, but it was just kind of a stark, like she is the reason I didn't go for it, like in the first semester, because I was like, that sounds pretty awful. But then I saw the disco theme. I saw Melissa Corn's mysterious hair. I saw Brett's chest, and I knew I had to be a part of it.
That's really, we didn't put that on the posters for the tryout, but we should have. We would have gotten a lot more exposure, a lot more complaints, and probably some more interest. Well, it's interesting. Everybody has a different Rhapsody story, but for sure, it's to having context. I mean, we spent 6 hours a week at a minimum together, just singing, and it was completely student run. We had a faculty advisor with Wayne Romer, but he didn't interface with us at all. It was maybe once a semester, and so it was trying, especially when you have a 20, 21-year-old at times that are trying to tell people the same age and 18-year-olds what to do. Like, that's difficult.
Yeah.
Because we're all ultimately doing it as a social thing. Like, yeah, we like to sing. That's our mutual interest, but we're here to make friends, here to put on a show, and then after that, make more friends in it and cast our net wider. So it is an interesting situation. Definitely, I would say people took it at different levels of seriousness, which at times was extremely frustrating.
Sure.
But it was cool to be a part of. I was very proud of that. One quick thing while we're on the Rhapsody unit I want to share, that I don't know how many people have to deal with this, and I don't remember if it was my first year or second year in the group. But at one time, they tried to shut us down. They being student government. And it was, I was on a leadership team the entire time with the group, so I got more intimately involved. But what they were protesting was every student organization, every student paid like $65 a semester, which gave you the right to be in every single organization that you wanted to be in. But because we had a tryout, we were exclusive. So since we were excluding people, that was violating the bylaws. So we had to go in front of the student senate multiple times. That was one time we worked very hard with Romer to be like, hey, we obviously need to uphold the integrity of the sound and not let everybody in the group.
Right.
Otherwise, we're just going to have another 300-person chorus, and that's not what we're going for. So we eventually won. And it was silly because, student government literally gave us like $500 a year for our budgets and things. It was nothing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, we had to speak in front of all these people. We were doing politicking where we got allies in student senate and be like, hey, John, so here's what we do. You've been to our concerts. We need you to speak for us and why it's important to keep the sound the way it is. And I'm glad they did, and they still have it running strong today. And I think Rhapsody's, obviously taking things to a different level. But there was a time where, Rhapsody may not have existed, at least the way we know it, if it weren't for some of those things we had to do.
That's fascinating, man. Because I know, oddly enough, there's not much of a story to it, but like I wasn't on the e-board. I actually stepped in when you left, so we just kind of swapped. I became president when you left, and man, dude, I did not know about that kind of fight. I do know that certainly the presidency took on its own measure of responsibilities. I take pride. I rewrote the Constitution. Kind of proofread it and did some things about proofread it. Ha!
Coming from the writing major.
I like that.
Your grammar not so good.
Yeah, I speak. Yeah, man. No, but Lord knows. Wow, man, that's just fascinating.
And quite honestly, that was one reason I decided to leave the group. Because putting in that extra effort with that got frustrating for me, that I was doing this and going to practice, and I myself didn't always want to put the effort in, let alone other, we're all going there to school. That's our job and other things. And it just got stressful for me where I wasn't enjoying it the way I was. So I left after my second full year in the group, went back to a few concerts since then. And it was much more enjoyable to be from that standpoint and go up at the end for the alumni song. I mean, that was always fun. And I didn't burn, to my knowledge, any bridges because I was still welcome to hang out with a lot of the group in there. And it also allowed me to focus a little bit more on things with what I wanted to do for school and get involved with other organizations. And although it wasn't this, I always say my big, not regret, the stupidest thing I ever did in college was graduate early, because college was so much fun. And we had such a good group of friends that we were with all the time, that, just spending more time with you guys on a day-to-day basis would have been great. I mean, I found myself after I graduated looking for a job in the greater York area. And then every weekend it's like, I'm going to sleep on somebody's couch so I can just hang out with you guys nonstop. So I could have been doing that while, taking it a little bit easier instead of joining the working world as early.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe if I had that approach, I would have stayed in Rhapsody longer, but I still, love to have many great friends and memories as a result.
Sure, absolutely. So let's shift gears a little bit. You brought up kind of your professional goals at the time, and certainly I know that maybe not every bit of context, obviously. It's not the kind of show that we over-research. I am running it after all. But
okay, fair enough.
But no, in getting to know you just as a person, but also in a leadership role in Rhapsody, certainly I would say one of the things we have in common is just kind of a natural gregariousness to just how we approach working with people, and one that, as much as we have that gregariousness in common, what I have to say is, in my opinion, one of your gifts is, in addition to being able to kind of engage people and care about people, there is this knack that I do feel you have to kind of make people kind of feel heard. There's very much, I think, a natural consideration that you have, that you want to make sure that everyone's voice is kind of at least heard out. And that sounds very simplistic, and to some people listening, they're just like, yeah, dude, he's a people person, I get it. And the truth is, you don't. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, that's very, I've always kind of admired that, certainly that aspect of your personality. Can you kind of talk me through, A, whether I'm on base or not, and B, kind of how that mindset has kind of prepared you for kind of what you do? I know that you and I, especially when I was working, and in hindsight, this was only like 4 months of my life, but it felt like an eternity. I know when I was working in Lancaster for Clark Associates, you and I had some of the most formal conversations of our life, quite frankly, of kind of a lack of HR there, and kind of your opinion on kind of the importance of it. And certainly I took a lot from those talks, because I think we agreed. But I'm really kind of curious to hear your perspective on, A, my assessment of you, and just kind of B, how that kind of has transitioned to kind of a career for yourself, and how you approach your life now.
Well, I'd say you're spot on. And not only do I see that in myself, but it even came up on my performance review this year with my boss, of how much I am a voice for, the plant. And I'll explain that in a second here. But I always have been a people person. I care a lot about people, and I'm not a, wanting everybody's voice to be heard, that I'm going to be, any civil rights activist of any kind. That's not who I am. But it is something that I really got into, how people work, and what I like about that. Earlier, when I alluded to my first semester of sophomore year, I found my calling. I took my first human resource management class, and I was like, this is it. Unfortunately, York College was so small that it was only a minor. So I actually majored in management and had a minor in that. But I wanted to put all my effort into going into HR. And honestly, I'm very blessed that I guess I was 18 years old, maybe 19 years old at the time, I figured out what I want to do the rest of my life. And there are plenty of people well older than I am that don't know that. And I was very fortunate, and I've stuck to it. So I said, hey, I want to get into human resources for the people. And this is kind of going into my interviewing pitch when I tell people about my career, because my first job, I I was at a human resource entry level position. I worked in a benefits department. I manned a employee phone line, so employees all over the globe would call in, and I would hear their complaints, assist them with things that are HR related. Hey, my pay stub says this. I didn't get this vacation. I'm having this issue with my boss. You know, I can log things anonymously or actually escalate it by knowing who the person was. But that wasn't. I'm sorry. And I also supported HR coordinators in our hospitals. But that wasn't an organization I wanted to stay with, and wasn't as people facing as I wanted it to be. Although I was hearing them on the phone, I wanted to interact with them. Then I went into a job where it is where I always say I did the non-human side of human resources, where my job was doing HR analytics and doing a lot of support for our HR people in the field. And while I was very good at that and it really honed my skills that I carry with me today, it still wasn't what I wanted to do. And I voiced that to my manager, who was the vice president at the time for the business unit I was in. And he said, I hear you. You keep doing a good job. We'll get you your shot. And he weaned me into doing a split role of the non-human job and the human job. And I was flourishing as the people HR manager. And they said, okay. Well, then we had a woman leave for maternity. So I went on to being full-time HR business partner for 2 different plants. At this point, I'm working in manufacturing. And it's been what I'm doing ever since. It truly is my passion. I make time for people. I like how people work. Andreas, who's my boss at the time, also was a little bit of a mentor. And one thing he said, which if anybody doesn't understand human resources, you know, it is truly a very important function. Human resources isn't what it used to be. You know, we're not hiring and firing and throwing parties for people. There's a big strategic element. And what fascinated me was Andreas was an engineer and grew up with that. And then he came into HR and now a CHRO of a company. And he said, as an engineer, what you want to do is a machine breaks down. And you take them apart to figure out what's wrong. And you find that piece and you replace it and you put the machine back together. But you can't do that with people. And that really resonated with me. And he's like, that's the challenge that I like every single day, that I don't know what I'm coming into. Every day is going to be different. We're going to have to work on not only building relationships with people, but going to the next step. So I've been, I think, successful so far in my career because I understood those things and had honestly the right leaders after my first job onward, and the right partners to help grow my skills and my mindset and the philosophy that goes into this. You know, it isn't treat everybody the same way. That is absolutely wrong. You need to treat people as individuals, and that's the only way you're going to get the most out of them, regardless of what field you're working in, a project you're working on. And that could even go back to, you know, coaching a team or singing in a group together. If I understood that the way I do now, I would have been better at not only identifying what works for Polly and our other friends and trying to bring that out of them more, but also, you know, we would have been maybe a little bit more successful. And it's fascinating. There are tons of books written about, you know, organizational behavior. It's a field you can study, but it's something that I love hearing. I love studying it more. I spend all of my time doing it. Last year, I even went back and did a certification for my senior professional of human resources, which is a big deal. It's a test. Only like 42% of the population passed in the first try. So that was something. When I did, I was ecstatic. But it still was a test, and it just shows that, and again, proves I'm in the right field. This is what I want to keep doing, and I'm very fortunate to have found that and have the support to keep growing in it as well.
Well, cool, man. Love to hear that. Congratulations, dude.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude. Tremendous. Man, I don't even know where to go from here.
Well, let me say, so when you said, you know, your time at Clark's, first, little story. When I did graduate, I actually interviewed there as well.
Sure.
And Clark's was a weird company, and I don't think anybody's going to be watching this to disagree. But it was a family-run company. So your first interview, it was an open interview. At least for me, I actually interviewed with the CEO of the company. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have a position identified. It was just, hey, let's talk about you and what you want to achieve, which is a very interesting approach.
Sure.
And when I started saying, like, well, human resources is my passion, it's really something I learned a lot about and I want to get into and work on it more than just the internships that I've done so far. And his response was, you know what I think about HR? I don't believe in it.
Yeah,
It's padding between employees and management. I'm like, you couldn't be more wrong. And I said that to him, like, I can't disagree with you more. And then he said, I don't know if you're very sure of yourself or if you're arrogant. That being said, I got called back for a second interview for a supply chain job. Ultimately, I wasn't selected, and I don't think I would have been happy there anyway. But from knowing a little bit of that, that's why I could give you that advice when we did have those phone calls. And anybody since then, friends, actually family of friends, my family, if they reach out to me about things that are going on in their work and frustrations, I've been able to listen and try to give advice when I can, do things for some of those people of, hey, I'm looking for a new job now. Can you look at my resume and give me some pointers? And I like doing that. It doesn't benefit me. It doesn't put any money in my pocket. I don't need that. I want them to be happy.
But it's about helping people up, man. I get that. Shoot.
Yeah.
You're preaching to the choir on all that.
That's what it's always been about. And I love that about my job.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. A lot of respect for that. Man. Brett, I want to thank you so much for joining me here tonight. Is there anything else you wanted to cover before we call it a night?
No, I mean, Polly, I've enjoyed our friendship for a long time. No, we'll cover one other thing.
Okay.
So I want to tell her, but Polly said it at the beginning that we got to know each other in Rhapsody, which is true. And I don't know if you know this, but I remember the very first time I'll say met you, although we probably didn't say anything more than hi. Do you remember what that was?
Oh, no.
Okay, it's fine.
It wasn't
as
Greg's
memorable as
bachelor
you are.
party. That much I know.
No. So, we both were the same age. We went to school, and you were actually in my freshman orientation group.
Oh, yeah?
We sat down in some classroom, and I won't forget you because I've still to this day never met anybody our age who talks like you, and expresses themselves that way. And at first I was like, this is a little strange to me. And it was something that, that's an awesome thing. And he's such a creative person and it's such a beautiful person. There's all these different things in him. It was very unique. And that resonated with me. I don't even know what you said, but we were in a circle in these chairs in some classroom, wherever, before anybody but freshmen are there. And I was like, oh yeah, I know that guy. And then later I was like, yeah, that's the same guy. And obviously building the friendship, like, it's really cool that things have come full circle and we've been able to stay in touch all these years, unbeknownst to you, since freshman orientation.
Wow. Man, I can only imagine what I said. Those were some times.
It was something else. And I mean, I always say the first friend I met and I still am with today was Steve. I met him at the Rhapsody audition. He was wearing a Brazil nation soccer jersey. And I was like, interesting outfit to try out in, but okay. And I got to know him, and it's great. And then it turns out he lived in the same room with you for all or most of college. It's just like, hey, this is a really small world where you get to make these wonderful lifelong connections. I mean, you hear about it from your parents and people who've been there before, but it's great to be able to look back and say, I had that. And again, very glad I didn't go to a different school. And I got to cherish these friendships and keep them going today. So I thank you for that, for sure, because you're a big part of my college life.
Hey, Brett, I appreciate that. Lord knows that's a two-way street. I wouldn't have anyone on the program that I didn't love a great deal. And certainly you fall into that category. Plus, man, we're wearing matching Oklahoma City Thunder Buddies for life. Yay!
Oh, amen. Gotta love it. Oh, wait, one more thing. I'm sorry. I'm going to keep.
No. I got all the time in the world. Please.
So, those of you who don't know, Polly is a huge Sesame Street fan.
Yeah.
So, when I last saw him, it was for Greg and Emmy's daughter's first birthday. Naturally, he brought her a Sesame Street book, I think it was, maybe another little present too. But not to leave out my 2-year-old, he said, "Oh, I got this for Nolan," and it was the Sesame Street book. It's all baseball themed, and and the whole song is based around. It's all based around "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." So a few weeks ago, Nolan loves this book so much. We read it all the time, and he can sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" indirectly, all because of Polly, and he still might trade you some of those baseball cards that were also in the book as well if you're interested in them.
I'm so jealous of those cards, man. Man, your story makes me sound like a saint, but there was literally a very real 30-second period. I was just like, if I rip out the cards, the child will never know.
Well, not only that, but you asked for them about 3 times. You're like, is he going to care about the cards?
He's not going to crumple them up, is he?
But he hasn't. He's like thrown them. We count with them, but that's about it. He doesn't read the stats. I read them, and I'm like, oh, is this Elmo's actual like birthday, like when he was first introduced to TV? And that's fascinating. But yeah, it's Nolan's one of his favorite books, and he sings sometimes out of the blue. Just starts singing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." Like, all right, my man.
Well, beautiful, man. I'll tell you what, I love to hear that. That warms my heart. If and when this clears up, you get to a Ducks game, we'll get the real thing going, all right?
I'll be fun. He's been to one baseball game in his life. He didn't know what was going on until he watched it. Being a Phillies fan, it had to be the Phillies. The Phillies won. It was funny because he didn't know what was happening. When the Phillies hit a home run, everybody erupted and they're excited. So he got excited, and that was a cool experience. So I would love to do that again. And he really definitely shows an affinity towards watching baseball. We were out in the yard playing it a little bit earlier. So, yeah, we'd take you up on a Ducks game for sure.
Awesome, man. I can't wait. Brett, man, thank you so much for joining me here. Thank you for everything throughout our lives. Lord knows I consider you a great friend. And I can't wait to talk again, all right?
I hear you, Paul. It's a great honor to be on the show. Thank you for having me. And more than anything, I really cherish our friendship, and I'm glad we can still be friends so long after college. So thank you for keeping that up, and I look forward to tuning in and seeing a few more of these things.
You bet. Yo, send me a picture of that beard, all right?
I will. Woo! We're not going to broadcast it on this. That's too embarrassing.
Oh, no. That'll be good for us. Speaking of which, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all so much for joining myself and Brett tonight. This has been the Chronicles of Search Continues. That has been Brett. I'm wishing you all a great night. Enjoy it, my friends. Bye-bye.
See ya.